Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to the March 19th Economic Development Authority meeting. Proud of myself because, last month I kind of struggled with that date. Just a couple things on the agenda I want to announce early. Ms. Graham Williams, who was slotted for the minority participation section, has to reschedule, and we will attempt to have her here in April. Given that, we'll have our welcome and roll call.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'll read the roll. Mr. Barber,
Here.
Mr. Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Here.
Mrs. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Spoon is absent, and Mr. James.
Here.
Here we have a quorum.
Great. I trust that everyone had an opportunity to look at the February 20th meeting. There are no changes and revisions to that. Move for adoption.
Motion and a second. Discussion, hearing none. Mr. Barber. Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. James.
Yes.
Here, the item is approved by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, at this point, we will have Commissioner Smith go over the 2025 budget.
Good morning again, everyone. Morning. I trust you have your budget in front of you. I'm not gonna go line by line. Those items will pretty much stay the same unless you have some additional questions. But I will highlight those items that there were some significant change. So I'll start with the operating revenue, the sale of land. And you can see there was probably about $500,000 difference, and that is a result of the land that we have available for sale. That's pretty much what that figure is. Okay, under rental investment property, you see that went down a little bit, and that is a result of us not having like rental Shannon Computer as one of our rental partners. And so that caused a reduction in that. If you go down to line 23, contractual survey and analysis, appraisals, that was increased as a result of the conversations we had about having money available for different things that we wanted to do, like the geotech study, that kind of stuff. Okay, contractual other, that was I guess increased just a little bit. Was that the RFP process, Brian? I'm trying to remember.
That is correct. That was included under that line. That would be additional work that AECom, if desired, we could incorporate under that line. And then the other was the line item for workforce development, which we decreased by 100,000. We have requested money in the city's operating budget for that workforce development program. So those slight tweaks there.
Okay, and down on line 33 and 34, as you know, we've been talking about having some staffing that was dedicated to the board. So because of the fact that economic development is kind of doing a lot of our stuff, and they're tied up. And so we talked about having a real estate development specialist and a grant program administrator. And the grant program administrator, we actually talked about getting that so that we could find ways to leverage the dollars that we're given, because there are grants and other things out there that will help leverage the money. And that's important to us to keep our fund going. And then down line 44, there's a slight increase with stormwater, which that's based on the properties. So that's just an increase, not too much we can do about that. And line 50 was increased from 7,500 to 100,000. Let me see what that is. Remind me on that, Ron.
Sure. Your investment income is the interest earnings you receive on your bank accounts. You have two accounts. And beginning in 2023, after you had a large injection of cash sale proceeds, those revenues went up considerably. We have programmed that at $100,000. That's really kind of just a best guess based on the fact that interest rates we anticipate will be coming down slightly in the coming fiscal year, but also that there will be an outlay of some of your financial resources with some of the programs and activities you'll be undertaking. So probably less revenue coming in on the investment side, but still substantially higher than what you had historically.
Okay, I think they're the majority of the change, the significant changes. Does anyone have any questions? Any clarification?
I just wanted clarification on the staffing positions. Would they go under the city in terms of benefits? Vacation, things like that? How would that?
Yes, I think great question. They would technically both be city employees. They would be subject to city salary and fringe benefits, include vacation, insurance, so forth. So that is, these numbers are factoring in benefits as well as salary. I will note that the real estate development specialist, we have proposed 50-50 split for that funding between the EDA and the city through its operating budget. But those do include benefits.
And the $100,000 interest, is that from CDs, bonds?
That would be interest on your bank account and the Bank of America account with the city of Portsmouth that the treasurer holds. Obviously, that is an investment account. I think that the city has with Bank of America, so the returns are a little bit higher than that than your other account.
So we don't influence what vehicles they go after for interest?
No, not in mine.
Okay.
There were just a couple of items that I'm going to ask Ms. Barisha to speak to. One dealt with the lease income from the Renaissance Hotel. In the last couple of years, I think that's been reflected differently in the audit, but I did want to just clarify. I think one of these numbers needs to be modified. And then there were a couple of expenditures that Ms. Barisha just wanted to touch on, make sure they were reflected.
I mean, the main concern is the lease income, because we will already have the contract. EDA has a contract with the Renaissance Hotel, and we know for sure that's $125,000. So you need to increase that revenue by 50,000. And the other one is the way how we show, but it should be fine. The other one on the second page, the way they show the negative and positive, but somehow they're reflected. So it's missing under operating revenue, just 7.5, but it's fine. It's not that, significant. So significant is this 50,000 more under lease income for Renaissance Hotel.
Just one question. I know we're looking to get some architectural drawings for where Shiny Computer was, and possibly the property across the street.
Yeah, we increased sort of line.
What line is that?
I believe that's your contractual line, line 25.
Yeah.
That's 250. Okay, so that's should be enough then. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So what, just in terms again on the schedule for the budget process, this is a draft budget that has been presented to you. What we would like to bring a finalized budget back you at your April 16th meeting for formal adoption at that time, so that it would be in place prior to the start of fiscal year July 1. And certainly the period between now and April 16th, we'd like to get any other feedback or comments, questions you may have addressed, and incorporated into the the final budget document, so we will incorporate Ms. Barisha and the finances department's feedback, and then any other items you want. I'd like to thank the budget committee, Mrs. Sandra Smith and Mr. James for their assistance in helping to put this together. We really did go through all of the numbers to make sure we were current and projecting what increases or decreases may come. So thank you to the budget committee for your assistance in the process.
Certainly nice to have some money. This is 2 years in a row. Wow. Yeah. Given that, we'll move into old business. As I mentioned earlier, we will not have the minority participation discussion. So Brian, why don't we start 1220 High Street?
Thank you, Chair. This is an update on the former Enterprise car rental location in the Innovation District that we have under contract. The due diligence period did expire on March 15th. So the contract has solidified, and we are working on a closing. We expected that to happen quickly, but we were advised that upon inspection, we've determined that the air conditioning unit, the rooftop unit, was not operating, and we are in the process of having that replaced. The seller has agreed to do that at their expense. So they are in the process of replacing the rooftop unit. As soon as that work is complete, we would then be able to close. We've also determined there are 2 additional units on the roof that are inoperable and not necessary anymore to be in place. I think they were there from when it was a former Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant. So we are going to work to have a roofing company prepare a cost proposal for removing those from the roof so that they're not an issue going forward, and potential for leaks. So we'll be back before you with that information as soon as we have a quote for that work. So that being said, as soon as the HVAC replacement work is complete, we would be looking to close, and we would anticipate within the next 30 days.
Did we hear anything from the 7-Eleven yet? Is that still, that's adjacent to it?
We have not, and I'll have to check. I believe we had Harvey Lindsay reaching out to them, and I'll certainly follow up on that and see if they've gotten any feedback. Your next item is 1117 and 1121 High Street. This is another update on one of your property holdings. This is the former Shiny Computers location, and the adjacent suite, which is Cleanway Environmental. We are wrapping up the process of having a roof replacement package prepared by Rosalie Architects. They're probably about a week away from finishing that work. That is calling for a roof replacement for the Shiny Computers portion of the building, and then also next door at Cleanway 1121. The way we have structured it is the package would go out as a single package, but we would get pricing for each individual address, so that based on the cost and the way the bids come in, we could proceed either with both roof replacements or an individual. Most pressing is the former Shiny Computer space. There's some leaks there that need to be addressed. There's some minor leaks next door, but they're less pressing. And we think we have a way to replace that roof without impacting the current tenant there. There's a product that's being proposed where they can remain in place during work's completion. The other thing that we have asked for, based on your prior direction, is to have the architect prepare a cost proposal for providing us with a conceptual rendering, or more really a needs assessment for the property 1117 for that space to be prepared for lease. We did a walkthrough last month. There's some improvements that need to be made. It really needs to be prepared as a kind of a vanilla shell, if you will, so we can begin marketing it. And we would look to do that after the roof replacement work is complete. But we do need an architect to prepare plans and specifications. I think the first step is to have an assessment of the property done. They're going to be looking at the exterior as well. I had mentioned some conceptual improvements that they're going to recommend for the building exterior, the parking lot, landscaping. I mean, this is a significant property at a major gateway and intersection in the innovation district, so we want to make sure it's contributing, it's dressed up, and I think that's something we express the desire for. So I'm hopeful that at your April meeting, we'll have a proposal and we can move forward with that as well.
I'm really excited about that piece of property. It doesn't look as great as it is inside, but it's huge. And as Brian has said, it's a kind of an anchor for the innovation district, and I just hope that we will move slowly and really think about what we want to go in there. That makes the best sense for innovation district and for the city. I think it could be really a showpiece. Some of the things we want to do.
There's an RFP for renderings and sketches and concepts to go up. Is that what I'm understanding?
We have requested a cost proposal from one of the architects we have under annual services agreement. So they're already under contract with the city, so we've asked for a price for the work to be prepared.
For what work though?
They would be doing a physical needs assessment for the building to determine, are there plumbing, electrical upgrades, how we would prepare the interior space as a vanilla shell for leasing, are there modifications required for ADA accessibility requirements, et cetera, those types of things, as well as, facade improvements, beautification, that type of work. So that's what we're having their price now.
And is the idea to use it as a general office space, or what's the concept of the building?
Well, I think we've got a number of options. Certainly that would be the EDA's determination, what you all ultimately want to see there. But this building, as well as some others in the district, the Innovation District Plan has identified them for things such as a maker space, co-working.
That's why I'm curious, because if they're developing concepts and renderings, it has to be based on some type of instruction. Like, give me a rendering of how this building would look as a healthcare center, as an office building, as a storefront. So is there a target of what the?
Not yet. That's to be determined right now. Really what it needs to have is just, it needs to be cleaned up. It's not really in even a condition that we can market it for any one of those things.
Okay.
So they really need to go in and make sure that it's habitable and in a marketable state. So that's it. We're still early on in the process, but the goal would be to have kind of a clean, finished space that somebody could come in and then build out for fill in the blank, whichever use we wish to have there.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's some of the discussion, and I don't know if Brian and I are always on the same page. I may be different from everyone else here, but I think often we have said that maybe we need to do something to kickstart the innovation district. And so we may not rely on a developer to come there. We may become the developer, so to speak, and put in there what we think makes the best sense, with the hope that it will bring others into the district. That's why I think we need to have a good, healthy discussion in terms of, what all of us perceive it should be versus what the realtors think it should be. And just take the time to make sure we lock into something that makes a lot of sense.
I agree with that too, because that was one of my concerns too when we were meeting in budget, because it's gonna be a hefty dollar to get that building. It's gonna cost a lot, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we want to make it the best use for us, for the city.
Even with the building at 1220 High Street, the old enterprise, is our primary interest in the lot itself or the lot and the building?
So we're acquiring the entire property, so the building and the lot that it is on. And the options you would have, once we close, would be to lease the property or to sell the property. But the objective there is to have site control to determine what goes into that piece of real estate.
Right.
So we can.
And my question was that because if we had no intention of using the building, why spend the money to get the AC? You understand what I'm saying? The money to get the AC systems removed, that the building could be potentially demolished.
I wouldn't expect for it to be demolished. It's on a fairly small parcel, so I think the building is usable in its current state. It obviously would need to be retrofitted for whatever the use is, but I think the plan is to not demolish the building, but to make it available for lease or purchase.
Okay.
Okay. Or again,
You know how old the building is?
I do not. I think it was originally constructed as a Kentucky Fried Chicken, but I don't know what. It's not terribly old.
And the seller's paying for the air conditioning, right?
Correct. They are paying for the replacement of the air conditioning units. And I did, again, mention there's some rooftop units that are not operating that should be removed. So there potentially would be a EDA expense for that, just to make sure that there's no roof leaks that will result over time for the rooftop.
Brian, maybe you can help me. The Innovation District planning and coding, I may be using the right terms, but has that went before the city council to approve? You know where we are with that? Because that will determine what can go in the Innovation District.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for pointing that out. So the Innovation District Plan has been presented to the Planning Commission in its final form at their March meeting. They have recommended adoption of the plan, and that will go forward to City Council at their first April meeting, I believe.
Actually, I believe it's actually being expedited, so it'll be at the next council meeting on the 26th. So that's the overall plan. Then I think actual zoning changes will follow. But the plan itself should be approved on the 26th, or at least considered by council.
So then following that, to get a little bit deeper into your question, Mr. Mitchell, is the city staff would then begin drafting any types of zoning regulations and how that would relate to the plan and recommendations with the plan. I would like to recognize that we have our cityscape planning director here in attendance this morning, Dr. Rhonda Russell, who's
Good
present.
morning.
She's 3 weeks into the role, so I don't want to put her on the spot, but I'm going to just a little bit. If she would like to make any remarks or share anything on the status of the Innovation District.
No more than what's already been shared. Thank you so much for introducing me and recognizing me. I'm happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions.
So we're going to be working closely with Dr. Russell and Brian Swets in the planning department to assist in crafting those zoning regulations if there's changes being proposed or things that we feel we'd like to see that would assist the EDA in its role in working to revitalize the district. We'll be working in partnership, and it may be a matter where perhaps we can have a meeting or discussion at a future EDA meeting to help craft those regulations, provide input and feedback.
I think we're all welcome that.
Well, we will be back in April with another update on those properties. Your next item is your waterfront redevelopment project. So we just wanted to kind of recap where we are. We have completed the 3 tasks that we contracted with AECom to provide services for a market study and a kind of a development strategy and plan for the Crawford Bay site, the northern limits of the city's waterfront, which has been completed. We received all of the internal feedback from city staff in addition to your comments, which have been forwarded and provided to AECom. So that is being finalized. We were expecting to have that this week. They ran into a slight delay. So the 25th of March is the date that I've been provided for getting a final copy of the study. So we will have that. I think it would be prudent to start conversations about planning for how we proceed going forward. That is a conversation I think that we would need to have with city leadership, with our city manager's office, in addition to city council as well. But I think it would be a good time to begin having some conversations, discussions on how we proceed with the next steps. AECom is able to provide support for that process. They have the ability through their existing contract and an additional cost, of course, to assist with preparing the RFO solicitation package, and then, of course, evaluating and supporting the bid evaluation process. In preparation for that, we have begun pricing some due diligence documents that were identified as part of this market study. And you'll see here we have some preliminary costs for those items. An environmental site assessment was something that was identified and recommended as being helpful for the solicitation process. That's been priced at $4,200. It was recommended as well that we obtain a commercial real estate appraisal, so we know the value of the underlying land. That had a $5,500 cost. And the third item was a geotechnical survey and analysis of the property to determine the suitability of the soils to support development. And that was just over $12,000. So I think we're about $21,000 in total cost. We have that factored in under your contractual line in the budget for this year. So we can certainly move forward with those items if you would like. We're still working to see if we can get some additional pricing. But I think this is pretty accurate to what the cost would be. And we're prepared to move forward, but certainly want to bring it before you to know what the cost would be.
Would you like a resolution to move forward with it at this time, or just?
A general consensus work, Jeff? Do we need to vote on that?
I think so. You don't have an actual contract yet, or?
We do not. We've been obtaining some price quotes and proposals. So if we can get these numbers down a little bit, we're working with the purchasing office right now. But I would say, we're in the $21,000 range.
Yeah, that's a decent price. So, with the one census.
Yeah, I mean, to Mr. Barber's point, if the board want to get a consensus now, then we could proceed and then ratify the contracts later after we've started.
I move that we proceed.
Not hearing any objections. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll proceed with this, and we'll finalize the pricing. We'll advise you what that is, and just go ahead and move forward with the work so it's preparing that we're ready to move forward.
Okay. So the real property investment grant, 701 Columbus Avenue.
Today I bring you an extension request. Mr. Copeland brought him to you at your August 15th meeting, and you approved his request for $25,000. Property is at 2701 Columbus Avenue. He is the property owner and has rented it out to a nonprofit. They are dealing with youth and community development. This is his second request. for an extension. His project was broken down into 4 stages, and he's completed stage 1 and stage 2 in full, and still has stage 3 and stage 4 to do. The scope of the work was essentially, all brand new, about like the exterior of the building. He was doing roofing, HVAC, electrical, plumbing for ADA compliant bathrooms, bringing the drywall for offices and the janitor's closet, putting in new doors and windows throughout, doing the entire kitchen build out, all interior lighting and interior and exterior painting as well as landscaping. What he's completed so far is all of the plumbing, electrical and HVAC. He has demoed all of the walls, interior, framed out all of his new interior walls, relocated the one exterior door he needed to do. He's purchased all of the doors and windows, and he's had it inspected and treated for mold. What he needs to do, and the remaining items that he's requesting an additional 90 days for, he needs to complete the bathroom installations, the janitor's closet installation, doing one wall repair, doing interior painting, as well as the lighting and ceiling fan install, doing his flooring install, and then power washing and painting the exterior of his building, and then doing the building of bookshelves and painting of wall murals. And this is a reminder of where it's located at the intersection of Columbus Ave and Portsmouth Boulevard. And then the before and his rendering for what it is after. He did not include the repaving of the parking lot or the installation of playground items in his grant, but that is his plan. He's just requesting an additional 90 days and is very confident that he should be able to get it done, and if the nonprofit will be able to at the end of it. To answer any questions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Barber and a second by Mr. Brown. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Sandra Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Is absent, and Mr. James?
Yes.
Chair, the item is approved by a vote of 6-0.
Next up is a small business event support. We've been talking about that over the last few meetings, and anxious to see what we have.
Yes, you have. Thank you, Chair. So, in response to the interest and desire to be involved in some of the community events and business events that are occurring or could be occurring, I should say, in the city, staff has been working on a list of a number of things. But Ms. Bailey, who I'm going to ask to come forward and speak with you all regarding some opportunities that we think we've identified that we tied into Small Business Month, which is coming up very soon in May. And we have, I think, a couple of smaller events that we're interested in potentially hosting and sponsoring, as well as a larger event, which is really kind of almost like a block party, if you will, hosted here in the downtown Old Town community. So, could you come forward and speak to what you've been working to put together?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, last month, I presented a slew of events that we were interested in executing for, Small Business Month. So we narrowed it down to 3 events after talking to, a consultant and a couple of our partners that could help us execute, and thought that 3 was more of a realistic goal. So we narrowed it down to, the block party, how to do business with Portsmouth, and a networking event for Small Business Month. So the block party, it's a celebration that encourages the community to come out and support the small businesses in Portsmouth, specifically on High Street. Right now, Old Town the Old Town District, is our only business district in Portsmouth. So we will highlight that corridor, for our first block party with, the hopes of continuing to, hold these events in the future. So it will be a three-part event. There will be a stage set up on Court Street, currently where the, farmer's market functions. So the event will run from 12 to 5 p.m., where we will have a stage set up on Court Street, with, live music, DJs, food truck and retail vendors. So it'll be a continuation, after the, farmer's market ends with vendors that we recruit, and food trucks, to participate until 5 p.m. We will also have, opportunities for existing businesses in the corridor to display their products and services that they sell on High Street. So we will recruit businesses that are interested in participating to have actual exhibits within the store on top of the products and services that they already hold. So we will have, education courses, art exhibits, dance, kids activities, face painting, live music, etc. within the stores, and some of our larger buildings like the Children's Museum, Roger Brown's, that can hold larger exhibits of music. We will also have activities on our curbs. So in that intersection, in that radius, there are 4 corners where activities can happen where participants walking by can interact with the activities. So the local artists, musicians, vendors, so it can be, we have a skateboard business on High Street. They can do live skateboard painting. We can have street performances, mural paintings, etc. That will all go on at the same time during this block party. Any questions of block party?
Are you coordinated with the farmers market leaders?
We plan to. So the hope is that the existing vendors that participate in the farmers market would want to stay over and continue till 5 o'clock. So we can have more vendors participating in the block party, and then recruit vendors that aren't currently participating in the farmers market as well. So it will not conflict with the farmers market because of their layout. We will be on the opposite side of the street, but we were hoping that they would want to continue and participate. So we do have plans to contact OBTA and see if they want to be a partner on this event.
Go ahead.
I have a couple questions. One, have you contacted the local businesses to get their buy-in, since a lot of it depends on them participating? So,
Not yet. We wanted permission to move forward before we introduce this to the business district. Just we don't want to get anyone's hopes up. But the consultant that we're working with has relationships with the businesses and has a strong concept of who would want to participate.
okay, and then what are your means of advertising?
So the event planner that we're working with, they would create a website, social media posts. They will create a marketing plan and have a marketing campaign to promote the event. They currently, the one consultant that we have spoken to is currently conducted the Juneteenth event in Portsmouth for the past 2 years, and this will be his 3rd year. So he has the capabilities to execute this type of event.
Who are all the participating organizations that will be involved, and do you have like a event committee or somebody to sort of help coordinate the activities?
Yeah, so we are planning, we've had discussion with Portsmouth Events. They are interested in being a partner. They would be the supporting organization that manages the funds, and all the vendors get paid. And they would contract to the event planner to execute and recruit the businesses and the vendors and and the business and all the activities that be going on at that.
And then, of course, we'd be coordinating with the Old Town Business Association for their buy-in, of course, pending your authorization of the board and their support to help coordinate with the business community. Since big portion of this would be having existing businesses with their storefronts open and participating and hosting different, individual pop-up shops and events and artists and so forth.
Is there a cost to us to be a sponsor?
There is.
So involved in the cost, the stage, sound and equipment, that is $8,000. That could be, the event planner has been in communication with the city to possibly use their stage, which would decrease our costs. Because it wouldn't be a fee for the stage, but still be a fee for sound and equipment. The artist, sound and musicians would be $6,000. Marketing promotion would be $5,000. Security, logistics and infrastructure, $4,000, and staffing, $5,000, with a total of $28,000. Any other questions?
And this is, obviously, Autumn came up with an idea to do something that's a fairly large scale. We're able to kind of, I think, modify and tweak kind of what is being proposed, but we felt like this was a good means of building upon what the farmers market is already doing, but to take it a little bit further down in both directions on High Street, and then really try to make it a day-long event with some other activities happening, just to kind of build upon it. We thought it would be helpful rather than trying to stand up our own event, maybe just to collaborate and work to make it a bigger day in Portsmouth that weekend. So
yeah, this is an event that a nonprofit I work with in DC hosted. DC has about 30 business districts. This event happens in those 30 business districts at the same time every year. So it's the purpose is to draw the community out of their homes and to buy in their neighborhood. There's a purpose behind it. It's community engagement, and business support, and just bringing wealth to the community. The goal should be to grow our business districts and have more than just one business district in Portsmouth. So an ideal situation is to have multiple business districts in Portsmouth, where this event can occur in each district and possibly same day every year, where every business district is getting the same exposure.
Did we get quotes from additional event planners?
Not yet. That one right now.
yeah, we were being the first time, we weren't really sure what the cost would be to do something like this. So, obviously there's some procurement requirements that we have as, the EDA. So we'd be working through that process with the city's purchasing office. So we're working with a, partner organization like Ports Events. But we wanted to bring it before you to know if this was even something that you supported in terms of, your financial backing. So that we could then move forward with, obtaining additional cost proposals, or if there was a partner that was going to be overseeing that and we were going to be sponsoring it and providing the funding, we would be then kind of ramping up our efforts. This is just kind of a preliminary proposal to see if there's an interest.
Well, I actually do like the concept of doing this. I really do. My only concern, which you all would know more than me, is doing it so quickly. Because I do think that you got to get the business buy-in. I mean, they got to say they're going to do it. They got to, increase their inventory. They have to do all things. But you all know whether that's possibility more so than I. It just seems like a quick turnaround to me.
Seems that way to me too, but that's approaching, and it is Small Business Month. So we were looking to do kind of a tie-in, but there's no reason this couldn't be done at any point in time during the years, whether it was, June. Probably wouldn't want to do it in the the midst of the, summer, but,
Wow.
Either a, late spring, early summer or fall event, I think would be, doable if we felt like May was not achievable. One of the things that, I discussed with Autumn, if we're gonna do this, we want to do it right, we want it to be successful because we want to do it again. So if, May is not achievable, then we would look at an alternative date. Later.
Well, I think a lot of that would come from talking with the different businesses on High Street and getting their input. If they can pull it together in time for themselves. And that would just depend on when they're approached. And just give them the idea that this is a concept we're coming up with and this is our target date. Do you feel like you could be prepared by then?
And I think a lot of the work is going to be on our end with, working with a consultant, our partner organizations. Essentially, the business will need to open its doors, so they need to be open, of course, and operating. But a lot of the other activity, and Autumn, correct me if I'm wrong here, the consultant will help coordinate with musicians, artists, so that there's managed activities happening at those establishments. But the businesses, you're right, will have to be open to it.
Yeah. And they may want to do a little,
And you need to
decorating in
consider
their own
businesses-
shops before inviting the public in such a mess.
Consider businesses that aren't retail businesses. There's a lot of small businesses in Portsmouth that are service-based businesses that don't have products to sell and offer on the street, so.
The idea is, to draw attraction to all the businesses on High Street. So even if you don't sell a product, they can have an exhibit going on in their space just to bring attention to their business, but they don't necessarily have to be selling something. The idea is to have some type of activity that will draw attraction to their business. We will have a schedule of every business involved in what they are offering so that people can go around and do a tour of each activity, and it'll all be going on at the same time, along with the stage, and the different displays on the corners. But they, don't necessarily have to sell a product to be involved.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to bring attention to the businesses that don't necessarily sell things so that the public can be aware that these services are available.
And I'm assuming you've looked at what our sister cities and all are doing around that time, so we're not having any conflict with a major event.
I have not looked at what the other cities are doing during that time. That's something we have to look into.
I share the comments that have been there like that. I think it's a great idea. And I think the timing is a little bit ambitious. I'm supportive of allocating the money to do it and let's go forward. But the question is just whether you can pull it off. And
Thank you for that. We'll work to finalize kind of the calendar that this is achievable and report back. I think if with your direction, we can proceed, we'll begin having those conversations. We've had some conversations informally, but actually getting before, OTBA, the farmer's market, having a bit of a deeper dive into putting this event together. And if we perceive we need to move the date, then we can look to provide an alternative date. Autumn, could you speak to the other two items? Because there are two other events.
Before we leave that item, since you're looking maybe at a different date, you might consider doing it on a first Saturday. Because first Saturday is the Middle Street Garage Flea Market as well as the farmers market. So there's a lot more traffic downtown for both events. And I know there's been some concern from the farmers market and the flea market folks that because they're a block and a half apart, tying those two events together kind of always has been a little bit of a challenge. Parking maybe in front of the Children's Museum, making a bunch of noise might attract people from the farmers market down that way or vice versa. So And that's at every first Saturday.
We originally planned for the first Saturday, but there was a conflict. We are having an event that Friday before. And we thought it might be too much. Yeah, say the city is the Friday, the first Friday, so we decided to push it back a week. But if we were to continue doing it, we did want to focus on first Saturdays because of the flea market. So our second event, How to Do Business with Portsmouth, will be May 20th at the TCC campus. This will, be focused on, how businesses can do, and partner with Portsmouth on a contractual basis. So we will have representatives, of course, from economic development, from purchasing, from all of our government entities, like the public schools that have contracting opportunities for small businesses. We will have them present, and talk about their application process and becoming a contractor with the city, and any potential opportunities they have for contracting. We'll have presentations, and then we'll have vendors set up with different opportunities with private and government organizations, so that they can go around the table and see what opportunities are currently in the making or in the future. So that is planned for May 20th at TCC from 11 to 2 p.m. And then the Small Business Month networking event will be May 30th at Time on the River. That will be an evening event from 5:30 to 7, where we will welcome businesses in Portsmouth to come and network and meet different businesses in Portsmouth. We are partnering with HR Chamber to execute that event. For the one thing I didn't do, How to Do Business with Portsmouth, will be partnered with Small Business Supply and Diversity.
Thank you, Autumn. The cost associated for the How to Do Business event is, we projected that at, I think, $600. That's to provide the businesses that are there. They're there all day with lunch, basically. We did that at a hiring event recently where the businesses were there all day, so to cover their lunch costs. And then, of course, the 2,500 is for the networking event, which would be a sponsorship for the space and then covering food hors d'oeuvres. That would be.
Quick question. Well, how are you reaching out to the business community and informing them to do these 3 events?
So for the block party, that will be a task assigned to the event planner. We will have your website and the social media platforms and the marketing campaign. How to Do Business with Portsmouth. We typically market our events through Eventbrite and social media. And then our partner with SPSD will market on their end as well. And then it will have each vendor that is participating to also market. And the Small Business Networking event, that will be marketed through HR Chamber.
Okay.
Through their,
Quick follow-up question. Do you do what a lot of people call follow-up in terms of how many companies showed up, estimate of the crowd?
yeah, we do,
Okay.
we do track the data. And provide it in our quarterly report. For attendance.
Do you plan to? A lot of times you can find companies that will show up and follow up with them and explain in more detail the staff members, taking calls on them. Because a lot of folks, most small businesses especially, they want to be working, making money.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering if you've ever, I hate to add stuff to the staff, but you might be able to do some networking of your services, of some of the grant programs you have that they may not be aware of.
Yeah, we will definitely
so
have a table So we will have all of our information displayed, and we will have representatives in the tables. And Brian will open up the event and talk about some of those.
Okay.
programs that we're offering as well. We'll definitely share our information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Commissioner James, that's a great point. I mean, these are opportunities for us to have to touch and have a interaction with each of these businesses that are going to be participating. So whether it's the block party and the businesses that are, whether it's a vendor or an existing business, brick and mortar here in Portsmouth, they'll be working with staff to coordinate that event. So we're going to be in contact with them. There will be a touch point there. And then the same thing with, the how to do business with Portsmouth. We're going to have a table there in presence. So there'll be, from the registration through dialogue, we're going to be interacting with those in attendance. I think for the hiring event, we had over 50 employers when Portsmouth at Work had a hiring event last month at TCC, and was it 50 plus?
50 for employers and over 300 teachers.
So our staff was in communications with all of the attendants, and then the same thing would be for the networking event, that we are interacting and building those relationships. So it's, I think that's probably the most valuable outcome of this is the relationship that we're going to get out of the event.
Yeah, we intend to have 25 table exhibitors, and we're planning for 50 to 75%.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Exciting. I think the only question is the date.
For
For the Portsmouth Block Party.
the block party is scheduled for,
I mean, if it's a great date.
if you move forward.
Right.
Right.
So what we're going to be working then to solidify that date and the programming as well for the event. And we can come back at your April 16th meeting, if not sooner, to let you know that that's a locked in date. That's still, I think, a month out for your event. So we'll definitely have an update. In terms of the funding, if these are three things that you would like to have us host, I think looks like we're doing at least one, if not two of these for sure. But we would just need some sort of, commitment in terms of your support for the event, so we can really start to kind of lock things in. I think the total cost is $31,100.
Food and expenditure up to 35,000.
Probably best we take a minute, Chad, for.
Yeah, is there a second to the?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion before we?
What was the motion again?
Approve expenditure for those three events for up to 35,000.
I'm in agreement of that. The bottom two ones, I think definitely just should go forward with it. The top one, I think that, we need additional information, of course. The concept we all agree
Okay.
with, so we're fine with
I like
that.
the idea, but I don't like the logistics.
Yeah, I think we gotta get some more into this with the top one.
Well, what we will do is, so I'm hearing a yes, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna, engage with, Old Town Business Association, farmers market, flea market, to kind of lock that in, as well as the businesses. And verify the dates work, and then we can come back. I don't believe April 16th will be too late, Autumn, if we're working to have everything set up to pull the trigger. Does the May 20th date, is that correct, is the date of the event?
Yes, we should have time to get permit and things of that nature.
If for some reason we determine that's not gonna work, and we need to look at a June date or a September date,
I did notice, I checked along with what Councilman Hubel said, June 1st is a Saturday.
so that could.
So that would be the flea market.
Okay. So we can work.
So you could just stretch it that month to the next day.
So we'll work to figure out the details, and then, I think on April 16th, we can come back and provide an update. Let you know if it's a go or no go, and if there's an alternative date that we're looking at, we'll know at that time as well. Thank you. We appreciate your support. I think this will be an exciting new, event that I don't think has been done in Portsmouth, to my knowledge, focusing on the business community. So appreciative of your support and the idea that you had to do it.
Thank you.
I guess we still need to do the roll. Also, yes, we still need to take a vote, which, we're gonna do real quick. We will, of course, come back in April. So,
Yeah,
I'm gonna read the roll. Mr. Barber,
we don't know who the event planner is.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. James.
Yes.
Chair, the item is approved by 6-0. Thank you.
It should be a city.
Next up, we're looking for a couple people to participate on the committee. The first one is the Business Investment Grant Program, which has done very well, but we're just looking to see if there are any tweaks needed to make it even more successful. So if you have some interest in participating in that, please let me know. That's the first round. Second round, I'll call you.
I'm interested in this.
Okay, thank you. And the second one is the Small Business Financing Committee. You know, at our offsite, we talked a lot about the importance of having capital for businesses. And we wanted to really start a committee to see what capital was available both internally with the EDA, through the state, and maybe on a broader level. Neil has expressed some interest in that committee. And is there anyone else would like to work with him on that? Please let me know. So we got 3 people. Good. It's great. Yeah, I think that's a good one, because if we can figure out capital holds back a lot of businesses, and there gotta be some funds out there to help us.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think one of the highest, things to overcome is not necessarily, the amount of money, just the access to capital. Because a lot of companies, you know, they're working on a shoestring budget and they're just not aware of all the funding that's out there and how to get the access to it.
Excited about that.
Very good. While we're here, is there anybody else who'd like to serve on the Business Investment Grant Program Committee? We had one.
I will.
coming up. Okay. So Chair, with authorization, we'll move forward with scheduling those meetings.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering for those committees. And Karen will be in touch to coordinate those meetings that we would like to have beginning in April, so that we can have any items ready for the start of the fiscal year potentially.
You know, I just remember, last week I was walking my dog and ran into the mayor. That's why I get most of my stuff done while he's out there. But he did say he would be interested in recognizing a small business as part of his minute with the mayor session, if we would just provide him with the information.
Okay, we can do that. Yeah. And that was part of the mayor's minute?
Right.
Okay.
For the month of May.
Great. Okay, we can work it. Okay, we do have a need for a closed meeting. We have a number of items to discuss. I believe, Vice Chair Barber has a resolution.
I move to go into closed meeting pursuant to code section 2.1-3711A dash 3 for purposes of discussing disposition of real property where the discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding 1130 High Street and 700 Crawford Street. In pursuant to code section 2.2-3711 8.8 for purpose of consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding the specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding the Zero Harbor Center Fort.
Second.
Okay, a second by Mr. Brown. Hearing no discussion, Mr. Barber. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. James.
Yes.
Chair, the item is authorized by a vote of 6-0. We are now in a closed meeting.
I hereby move that each commissioner certify to the best of his or her knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion by which closed meeting was convened, were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Lead the roll, Mr. Barber. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. James.
Yes.
Item is approved by a vote of 6-0. Chair, we are now back in an open meeting.
Move that we add to the agenda two items. One related to 700 Crawford Street, the other related to 1100 High Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. James.
Yes.
Here, the item is approved by a vote of 6-0.
Shall I read the 700 Crawford? Resolution. Resolution 700 Crawford, extension of outside closing date. Whereas EDA entered into an amended and restated purchase and sale agreement effective January 5, 2023, with 700 Crawford LLC for the construction of a multifamily development at 700 Crawford Street, as amended effective July 13, 2023, the agreement. Whereas the agreement establishes an outside date of March 31, 2024 for developer to close on acquisition of 700 Crawford Street, the outside closing date. And whereas developer has requested a 6-month extension of the outside closing date to allow for preparation and submittal of design changes developer deems necessary. Whereas it is in the interest of both parties to extend the outside closing date, now therefore is hereby resolved that 1, the amendment of the agreement to extend the outside closing date through September 27, 2024, together with such minor additional amendments as may be required to conform the agreement to the new outside closing date is hereby approved. 2, the chair and vice chair are each hereby authorized to execute an amendment to the agreement in accordance with the intent of this resolution. 3, this resolution should be effective immediately upon its adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. James.
Yes.
Here, the item is approved by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, the second item is a resolution that went out with the packet and was titled Voda Cooper Extension of Permitting Period.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'm slowing it.
Thank you both, especially Mrs. Saunders. Mr. Barber. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. James.
Yes.
Here, the item is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Open meeting. I just wanted to follow up on one of the things we talked about at our retreat. And that was that we would every quarter provide some funding to a community organization. And we originally had looked at the funding from the billboard. I think it was $400 a month, so it's $1,200, I guess, every quarter. I want to figure out what that process looks like. So do we submit names? We can have a discussion around it for the April meeting. Or we can divide it into 3 or 4 people and you come forward with a recommendation. It's not a major issue, but $1,200 can make a difference to some of the small organizations.
What's the, is there a certain criteria the organization has to?
We hadn't really talked about that. I think we're going to be kind of loose with it, probably, you know, as long as they had a business license and,
Well, I kind of think we should, as members of this committee, you know, we'll just be out in the community just seeing, you know, if we see a worthy organization and if we can just bring it forth. I don't know, like you said, we can do it with the criteria, because it would be diverse, I'm sure. And we know that we have that money available if one of us, you know, are aware of an organization.
Would it be for nonprofit organizations or would it be open to for-profit as well?
I thought we were talking about basically nonprofit.
Nonprofit,
That's
okay.
what I thought.
it'd be easier. It's already met some criteria. So given that, I guess April, if you have some organizations you wish to recommend, we can listen to the presentation and make a vote. The last thing I have is that someone had approached me a while ago about the fact that the shipyard in Norfolk, they had a shortage of parking spaces. And their conversation was, how many of those people that were trying to park originated in Portsmouth, and could HRT create a spot, like maybe early morning, where they would stop somewhere near the shipyard to reduce some of the parking needs over there. I didn't know if we wanted to get with HRT, do an analysis, how many people actually commute from Portsmouth to Norfolk for the shipyard. Would they be open to having a temporary spot there, early morning, evening? But it seems like it might be something that might be of value to our citizens if there's enough of them that go over there. I don't know if you've ever been over there, but it's a nightmare. People trying to find parking spaces, you know, parking in neighborhoods, etc. I don't know that much about the shipyard, if that's a need.
Well, I know a little bit, but actually 2 of them. Yeah. So BAE across the water here, NASCO, kind of tucked down by the. So, you know, figuring out how many Portsmouth people work there would be a starting place, figuring out how many stops you want to accommodate, because if you accommodate one shipyard and not the other, then are we being business fair?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think there's some homework that would need to be done here to make sure that we're a good intention. And
Oh, yeah.
Being
Absolutely.
a good intention.
Well, if it's some interest, maybe we can start with the shipyard. They ought to have some numbers in terms of how many people live in Portsmouth. It's a reasonable amount we can pursue, possibly, if not.
Well, I actually think, not even just that we probably should have some type of dialogue with HRT in general. Because even, you know, like we're building these apartments and all this kind of stuff, and it's just reliable transportation has always been an issue, you know, but people wanted to park. If you don't have adequate parking spaces, then people have to be able to, you know, if they want to move there, they're gonna have to rely on some type of transportation. So, I mean, I think a general discussion with our HRT about, you know, what they're willing, you know, to do about routes and Portsmouth in general is a good idea. I don't know what we do, you know, what the process is. just to open up a dialogue.
Yeah, the city planning department has a transportation planner that is the point of contact for HRT, and they work with HRT directly on the route planning for the city, but because that does change from time to time. The person who's currently, I guess, overseeing that process is Brian Sweats. Hiring for a permanent position to oversee that right now. Or that would be the Planning and Community Development Office has a transportation plan, but that would be that person responsible for that.
Well, maybe we can have them come do a presentation, on how they do, the turnarounds and,
You can certainly ask
those kind of things.
Brian to come in and provide a.
Then with that, Malcolm, you got the willingness of the participants too, because when I worked at the shipyard, when the whistle blew, I was ready to go. I wanted to get in my car and leave. I don't want to wait for a bus or wait for mass transportation. So you got to see how many people are actually willing to like park and ride, do a park and ride type of scenario. Because I'm sure HRT has park and ride locations set up where they do transportation to the shipyards. They even have some companies even have private buses to take workers to the shipyard. So there's the transportation issue. Getting there is probably not as big an issue as the parking issue, but it's like first come, first served.
Yeah.
I would also think that would be something you'd want to do in conjunction with the city of Norfolk. Because if people are parking in neighborhoods, I would imagine there's citizens are complaining also.
Well, I'm not terribly vested in this issue.
Some feedback.
If it was something that could be done, it made sense based on the numbers, I think positive for citizens in Portsmouth.
Yeah, because they do have buses. I've seen buses. I'm more familiar with the facility over in Newport News. They have buses that pick people up from North Carolina and commute. So it can be done, but I'm like Mr. Brown. A lot of the contractors, they're not catching a bus. They want to drive their car and park in somebody's yard.
I sometimes say that the citizens ought to start, maybe they ought to start selling their
They do.
driveway.
They do.
We got, yeah. I mean,
They
Really?
do. Several of them.
That's
They're not.
interesting.
I don't want to speak for off the record, but several of them pay,
Yeah, I can see why they do.
and they don't report that on their income tax.
It's a cash only deal.
It's
Huh?
a cash only deal. Yeah.
So speaking of HRT, about a year and a half ago, HRT started a pilot project in Newport News and in Virginia Beach, basically that mirrors Uber, except HRT provides the service. Might be interesting to invite HRT in to find out what else they're doing, because they're not doing that in Portsmouth, even though Portsmouth uses more HRT transit per capita than any other community in Hampton Roads. So might be interesting to invite them in and maybe put the squeeze on them for supporting our folks, our working folks here in Portsmouth.
Good idea.
We can work to have them in a future meeting. As the transportation planner, and then representative from HRT to present on what they're doing.
Hey, remind me again, when is our tour of tomorrow?
Glad you asked, because we have a few tours, and we're now on the report backs, and that is one thing I wanted to touch on. We do have several tours planned for this week and next, and a number of events as well that I wanted to highlight. You should have received emails from Ms. Williams on each of these items. Your first is a Fairleigh Wavy Street tour that is scheduled for Wednesday, March 20th at 9 a.m. Several of the board members have expressed an interest in touring the facility, so we do have a representative from Fairleigh who will be meeting with us on Wavy Street there at 9 a.m. on Wednesday for that tour.
Tomorrow, right?
That is tomorrow, the 20th.
Tomorrow, Wednesday.
The next tour that is scheduled is the tour of the rail yard district, and that is in Norfolk on March 26th. That's a Tuesday at 2 p.m. And we are going to be meeting with Rich Meredith of Meredith Construction to tour his Norfolk redevelopment project there on Hampton Boulevard, which I think
What
is,
date was that?
that's Tuesday, March 26th. Good opportunity to see the possibilities that lie ahead for the innovation district. So we'll be meeting with Mr. Meredith at 2 p.m. I believe the rally point there is Nothing But Cakes store.
That's on Hampton Boulevard.
On Hampton Boulevard, yes.
They're good cakes too.
Yeah.
And then a couple of other events that are coming up. We have some ribbon cuttings. The first is the Mustard Seed Place, which is at 340 High Street, the former TCC Visual Arts Center. That's scheduled for Wednesday, March 27th at 9:30 a.m. I think that'll be an exciting event. If you're able to make it to that, I would highly recommend it.
What time did you say that one was?
9:30 in the morning.
And that's the 27th?
Wednesday, March 27th. That is at the former TCC Visual Arts Center. Dr. Reddix, the owner, developer of the project, I think it has over a dozen businesses. They just last week or the week prior opened an ice cream shop in the building that's run by a group of children. And she has over 12 businesses, I believe, all minority women-owned businesses that are opening there. And in addition to that, an event space on the third floor and top. So that will open the 27th. And then Thursday, the 28th, the next day, we will have a ribbon cutting for the Bloom Market. That's at 719 High Street, and that will be at 10 a.m. They had their soft opening on Monday, yesterday.
They did not.
They did not.
They're delayed, but
Okay.
they are planning to open this week with the grand opening.
Well, they're doing a soft opening this week at some point with their ribbon cutting next Thursday, at 10 a.m. Just a couple other items. It was previously discussed about the possibility of having a database for small and minority businesses in Portsmouth. This was discussed, I think, at a retreat in January. We've had some follow-up conversations about it. And if you're not aware, our department currently does have on our website a business registry. And we're looking at modifying that. I think that we can accomplish the objective with what we have in place, but making some minor modifications to that. Tracy is working with our web design company, Marathon Consulting, to see about updating the database for identifying minority and small businesses a bit further in terms of their status as a SWAM business, but also the category of the professional or other personal services they may provide. So we're going to continue to work on that. We'll have an update probably in April on the status of that. Okay. Did want to mention that is in the works. And then one other quick update that I didn't have when we started the meeting, but Karen has informed me we did get some good results for the demolition of 73 Farragut Street in Craddock, which closed yesterday. So we're working with the purchasing office. So hopefully we'll have a contract to award potentially by the end of the week. So we can move forward with the demolition of 73 Farragut, which has been on the table now for a while. So that will be happening here.
Yeah, I was asking Neil during our break about that revitalization project in Craddock. With Lacey Pargon, no one seems to be spearheading too much, or do you know of anything?
They've had some leadership changes with the Civic League, and we have been engaged with the Civic League there. There were some other properties that we were interested in pursuing, one of which went to auction. We were not successful in acquiring it. It was purchased by a private buyer, excuse me, which has changed our plans somewhat. But we are still working with the real estate that we do have to get that out for requests for offers, the public solicitation, or marketing it for purchase. But we've got to get 73 Farragut from all first. That's soon. But we still have a plan there.
Any update, Jeff, on the High Street property and the families and?
The 1,000 block,
Mhm.
it's still rolling along. The latest news we have on it is good, but it's not done yet.
These were the any other items I had, Chair.
There are no further questions. This meeting is adjourned.